It was filmed by Paul Freeman. He was actually a Forest Service worker.
Yeah, it looked like they'd been here.
We found some footprints and he was following those.
Oh, there he goes.
That went into the Annals of Bigfoot history, that video there, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy.
What if the reason we've never caught Bigfoot isn't because it doesn't exist, but because it's smarter than we thought? Smarter and nearly invisible. For decades, people have claimed to see a giant, elusive creature slip into the shadows, vanishing before a camera can focus or a step can follow. A living being with a shocking ability to disappear, not through magic, but through camouflage. In this documentary, we'll pull back the forest curtain to explore a theory that's gaining ground among researchers and believers alike. Bigfoot isn't just hiding, it's adapting. From trail cam tampering in California to shadowy encounters in Colorado and hair samples recovered in Wyoming, the signs are everywhere. With insights from biologists, wilderness experts, and cryptid investigators, we'll dive deep into the science of natural invisibility. Now let's take a detailed look at some real-life camouflage sightings, encounters that raise eyebrows and questions alike. And topping the list is one from a lone hiker deep in the San Gabriel Mountains of Southern California. It was 2020, and the trail was quiet, the kind of silence that makes you more aware of every snap of a twig. A hiker, sensing something unusual nearby, began recording. From a high vantage point, the camera captures a craggy mountain range in the distance. Then, zoom! The lens focuses on one of the evergreens nearby. And that's when something stirs. Partway up the trunk, something or someone seems to be staring back.
The Southern California mountains are amazingly remote and staggeringly rugged. That area is perfect Sasquatch habitat.
A shape, humanoid in form, emerges from the texture of bark and shadow. There's clearly a head, broad shoulders, 2 arms, and what could very well be 2 legs. Whatever it is, it's perched approximately 15 to 20 feet off the ground, almost as if it belongs up there.
From a high vantage point, we see a craggy mountain in the distance. Suddenly, the camera zooms in on one of the nearby evergreens. Partway up the trunk, something or someone seems to be staring back.
Bigfoot sightings are often associated with Northern California, but sightings down south? Not as common, though not impossible. The mountains of Southern California are steep, vast, and strikingly remote. In other words, ideal territory for something to stay hidden.
There are a small number of credible reports of rather large Sasquatches being up in trees or having been seen jumping down from trees. They have the shoulders, the hands, the arms, they're strong, they can pull themselves up. I mean, humans can climb trees, and Sasquatches are just better built humans, essentially, at the end of the day, way more apey than we are, and we're apes.
Interestingly, just 3 years before this footage was captured, another strange encounter occurred just 60 miles away in the San Bernardino Mountains. That doesn't surprise field researchers like Cliff Barackman. According to him, there are a small number of credible reports of large creatures, potential Sasquatches, spotted in trees or even leaping from them. Their anatomy supports the possibility: wide shoulders, long arms, incredible upper body strength. Humans can climb trees. Why wouldn't a creature even more ape-like than us be able to do the same? But here's where the mystery deepens. Bigfoot, as the name suggests, is said to be massive. Some reports claim these beings weigh up to 800 pounds. So then, how could something that heavy climb a tree and remain suspended without shattering the branches beneath it? Either we're seeing something incredibly powerful, or this isn't Bigfoot at all. For centuries, humans have studied the art of concealment on the battlefield. From the bright red uniforms of the British Redcoats to the elite snipers of today draped in ghillie suits, camouflage has become a science of survival. But what if Bigfoot has already mastered this, long before we ever did? The French were the first to enlist artists to design battlefield camouflage during World War I. Since then, soldiers have been trained to manipulate shape, shadow, silhouette, surface, spacing, and movement. The 6 pillars of tactical camouflage. Snipers blend into their surroundings not just with color, but by breaking up outlines, hiding in shadows, and moving with the precision of a predator. Modern soldiers avoid creating silhouettes against the sky, spread themselves out unevenly to mimic nature, and even control scent and sound to avoid detection. It's a complete system of invisibility. Now ask yourself, if an intelligent species had lived in the wilderness for generations, wouldn't it have developed similar instincts, if not better? If Bigfoot exists, its camouflage may not be technological, but primal, rooted in deep fieldcraft. It may not just be hiding, it may be outsmarting us at our own game. Later in this film, we'll dive into the science of camouflage, how it's been used in nature and warfare, and how Bigfoot might have evolved its own form of concealment. But first, let's hear from someone who's come terrifyingly close to the unknown. This is Tommy Biscardi Jr., recounting his first encounter. The setting: a swamp thick with 6-foot reeds and knee-deep water. He and his team had been tracking footprints, 12 of them, fresh and deep in the soil.
We're looking at something that's probably over 500 pounds.
Right around the left of this bluff over here is when I had my first encounter. We had showed up, we had found like 12 tracks in the ground.
With heat-seeking equipment, they spotted something off to the left, 300 feet into the swamp. Tommy wasn't convinced. At the time, he still believed it might just be someone messing around. So, he charged in. I got out to about 150 feet, he recalls, and spotted a black shadow in the reeds. I was already in water up to my knees. The shadow didn't move, not at first. I figured, bear? Maybe. A prank? Possibly. But I had to find out. Then it stood up. Towering, easily 2.5 feet taller than Tommy, and then it sat back down.
Started hearing something off to our left, about 300 feet into the swamp. Well, being my first time out, I said to myself, well, I'm going to go find somebody playing out in the woods here because I don't believe in it. Well, I started rushing through that swamp, got out to about...
Armed with a taser, he moved closer, but the shadow bolted. Not stumbling, not struggling through the swamp, but gliding through waist-deep water with effortless speed. Tommy chased it, expecting a hoax. He believed that if it was a guy in a suit, the water would bog him down. But it didn't, he says. It just kept moving, like the water wasn't even there. Here's the strangest part. It wasn't clearly visible, no details, just a perfectly cast shadow, as if cloaked or blurred by the reeds themselves. And that raises the question, is camouflage the key to Bigfoot's survival, and our inability to ever fully see it? To understand how a creature like Bigfoot could remain hidden in our modern world, we need to look to the natural world, where camouflage is not only common, but essential for survival. Across the animal kingdom, camouflage is the art of invisibility. It's how prey hide from predators, and how predators get close enough to strike. From the silent wings of owls to the shifting skin of octopuses, nature has perfected this survival technique over millions of years. Camouflage isn't just about color, it's about deception. Some animals use biochromes, natural pigments in their skin, to reflect specific wavelengths of light. Others, like polar bears, use structural camouflage, with fur that scatters light to create the illusion of pure white, despite having black skin underneath. But camouflage must also fool the perception of the viewer. That means tricking the eyes and the brain, blending not only into the environment, but into the expectations of the predator or prey. There are multiple strategies: concealing coloration, like the Arctic fox turning white for winter; disruptive patterns, like a zebra's stripes, which confuse predators by breaking up the animal's outline; counter-shading, used by sharks and dolphins, where the body fades into both light and dark backgrounds depending on the angle; And then there's disguise and mimicry. A leaf-tailed gecko that flattens itself like a dead leaf, or a harmless butterfly that mimics the look of a toxic one. So, is it really so hard to imagine a creature in our forests, perhaps intelligent, cautious, and evolved to survive, developing its own advanced form of camouflage? Bigfoot may not be invisible, but like so many animals in nature, it may simply be hardwired to disappear, and that might be why we keep missing it, even when it's right in front of us. When it comes to understanding why Bigfoot has eluded definitive discovery for generations, no analysis is more compelling than that from RMSO, the Rocky Mountain Sasquatch Organization. Their detailed breakdown helps illuminate the reasons behind this creature's vanishing acts and stealthy survival. First and foremost, RMSO reminds us of a simple fact. Bigfoot is extremely rare. That alone makes encounters scarce. But rarity alone doesn't explain the near invisibility. It's the creature's intelligence, its instinct to avoid humans, that makes the difference. As RMSO puts it, this is an animal that knows humans are dangerous, not just to it, but to the entire ecosystem. Eyewitness accounts, photographs, and videos consistently show Bigfoot with hair colors that blend seamlessly into the environment: black, brown, red, blonde, and even white. Remarkably, there are theories, and even supporting accounts, suggesting Bigfoot may seasonally change its hair color, turning white in the winter like weasels, snowshoe hares, or ptarmigans. That alone would place it among a very select group of advanced mammals with adaptive camouflage. But RMSO takes this a step further, with a startling hypothesis. Some eyewitnesses have reported Bigfoot with hair that doesn't just blend, it bends light. Like a living stealth suit, the hair might scatter, refract, or reflect light in ways that distort visibility, even at close range.
First one was just standing there, it was really weird, like a reflective light almost, when I moved. He was just there. It was scowling. He was scowling and kind of looking, and it was probably about 5 seconds, and then he kind of like huffed, and you can see all the cold coming out of his nose.
One example is Matthew Anderson's encounter. Just a month after a Bigfoot was filmed in the same area, Anderson claims to have come face to face with not one, but two large creatures. He described the experience as surreal, as if light was bouncing off the creature in an unnatural way. It was standing still, yet had a kind of reflective distortion. When it moved, the cold breath was visible, but the outline remained difficult to track. To support this, RMSO points to examples from nature, specifically the polar bear. Though their fur appears white, it's actually made of transparent, hollow tubes. This hair funnels light down to their black skin for warmth and also helps them remain buoyant while swimming. Photos of what RMSO believes to be a Yeti in Russia also support the idea. These high-resolution images show the creature nearly disappearing into its surroundings, despite being up close. The hair seems to refract light in such a way that it becomes difficult for the human eye to focus on it. In one field investigation, RMSO collected 2 large wads of hair near a documented trackway. They sent samples to 3 universities and 1 museum. To date, none have matched it to any known species.
At the request of 3 universities and 1 museum, we sent large, generous samples at the end of 2013 to all of these places. To this day, none of them have admitted to making a match with any known mammal. A step or 2 away from this hair, it appears to be grayish blue. From a distance, gray, and it just seems to melt into the background.
When examined under a microscope, the hair revealed something extraordinary, minimal to no medulla, the protein core found in most mammalian hair. Add to this the diverse natural coloring, a mixture of gray, black, blonde, red, and brown. And the result is a nearly perfect camouflage system, enhanced by an optical trick of the light itself. No wonder Bigfoot has remained the undefeated champion of hide and seek. Ever wondered why we try so hard to capture Bigfoot? Why the search demands weeks in the wild, hundreds of hours of footage, and enough gear to outfit a military op. Because something out here is hiding from us, and it's winning. Deep in the woods, bushcraft expert Biko Wright and renowned primatologist Dr. Mireya Mayer follow an unusual trail, subtle breaks in the underbrush, faint impressions in the soil. It leads them not to their target, but back to base camp. What they find is disturbing. The tents have been tampered with, not torn, not shredded, but methodically dismantled, poles removed, fabric untouched. No bear or raccoon could have done this. No storm, no accident. Something or someone had been here.
Makes you wonder if something did this.
And knew exactly what to do. I've had animals damage tents, Biko says, kneeling beside the collapsed shelter. But pulling out the poles clean without tearing the fabric? I've never seen that before.
I've had small animals and even wind tear the material on my tents before. But pulling the poles out completely without tearing any of the material, I've never seen that.
Makes you wonder if something intelligent did this. Dr. Mireya, when animals feel safe enough to wander through your camp, it means you're in the right place. But if this creature is as intelligent and curious as we believe, it may be watching us already.
There is something great about when you set up a campsite that animals feel comfortable enough to go through there. It's also an indicator that there is animal activity here, which is what we want. And in this case, because what we are looking for could be a highly intelligent, curious animal, this is a great sign. I mean, let's go check out those trail cams, because if anything or anyone did come through here, we should be able to catch it on
At least
that.
one of them should have picked up something.
They rush to the perimeter, an arc of trail cams set up to catch movement from every angle. It's a high-tech netcast in a primitive world. If anything crossed their camp, one of these cameras should have picked it up. But that's the question haunting every serious researcher. How does something so large move so silently? How does it avoid every lens, every trap, every eye? And maybe the answer is even more terrifying than we imagined. Maybe Bigfoot's greatest defense is that it's always been watching us first. When you're trying to prove the existence of an elusive creature, you don't leave anything to chance. And that's exactly what Biko Wright and Dr. Mireya Mayer thought when they ringed their entire base camp with high-resolution trail cameras. The logic was simple. If something came near, they'd catch it. They begin reviewing footage, their confidence unwavering. But the first clips reveal nothing. Just leaves rustling in the wind, branches swaying, no deer, no wildlife. Odd in itself given how active this trail usually is. Then, something strange. A faint flicker of light on a distant tree trunk, barely noticeable. Do you see that? Mireya, squinting. It's subtle, some kind of shifting reflection. There's no known source of that light, no explanation. The footage is sent immediately to Bryce Johnson, their tech analyst. Bryce isolates the section and adjusts the contrast and shadows. "Oh, what is that?" he whispers. There, standing in the background, almost hidden in plain sight, is a massive figure. It has the broad shoulders, the head, the frame of something enormous, and yet its body seems to flicker. Its shape is unclear, as if it's semi-translucent or shifting with the light. It's like it's not fully there, Bryce says. Maybe it moved so fast the IR camera struggled to detect it.
It's also almost translucent. I wonder if this thing was maybe moving through the camp in a strange way or really fast, and the IR camera had a hard time picking this up. I mean, you'd have to be super fast to do that. I don't get that at all.
He calls Mireya immediately. I saw it. Head, shoulders, and a body. But it's almost transparent. It's huge. Mireya is stunned. Are you saying it was invisible? Maybe not invisible, Bryce replies, but close. There's something called motion camouflage. Some predators, like big cats, move in ways that keep them hidden from prey. It's real science, and if Bigfoot evolved similar strategies, then silence. The question lingers in the air like a fog in the pines. What if Bigfoot isn't hiding behind trees or darkness? What if its greatest weapon is the way it moves? Many reports across the internet suggest one undeniable pattern. Bigfoot doesn't just flee, it vanishes. Not through magic, but something far more unnerving: camouflage. The creature's ability to blend in with its surroundings has baffled eyewitnesses and researchers alike. It's not just hiding in plain sight, it's becoming part of the forest itself. Take the most recent sighting out of Colorado. The footage, captured from a moving vehicle, seems ordinary at first, just dry, brown land, peppered with low bushes and sparse trees on a mountainside. But then, something shifts. A dark figure walks slowly through the terrain. It looks unaware of being watched, its movement calm and purposeful. And yet here's the eerie part. If it hadn't been moving, we wouldn't have seen anything at all. It blends perfectly with the colors, the shadows, and the backdrop. Like a ghost wrapped in bark and soil, the question is, how many more times has this creature stood right in front of us, and we never even noticed? Next up, we explore a chilling discovery that raises more questions than answers. This footage comes from Alfred Martinez, whose friend frequently records videos focused on wilderness survival. During one of his usual editing sessions, something strange caught his attention. Something he hadn't noticed while filming. In the video, the guy is out in the snowy wilderness, casually chopping wood. Everything appears normal, until he turns his head toward the camera. That's when it happens. A faint figure appears behind him, almost invisible to the naked eye. At first glance, it looks like a distortion, maybe a glitch in the lens. But as the clip continues, the shape remains, subtle, humanoid, and motionless. It blends so perfectly into the surroundings that it's hard to tell whether it's a shadow, a trick of the light, or something much more unsettling. When slowed down, the figure becomes slightly clear. It's not cloaked or hidden behind trees. It's standing in plain sight, and yet it's nearly impossible to notice without close inspection. What kind of camouflage is that? Is this Bigfoot's most terrifying ability? The power to become nearly invisible? If so, this could be the best proof yet of its ability to vanish without a trace. We often hear stories of Bigfoot vanishing without a trace, disappearing into the forest like a ghost. But no one ever explains how it happens. Could it be camouflage, shadow play? Or is there a more advanced, almost supernatural method behind it? This next account might offer a clue. A man and his wife were out for a casual bike ride when things took an eerie turn. They began hearing strange animal noises, like a fox scream but much deeper, more guttural. At first he brushed it off. Not being a local, he figured it could be any kind of wildlife. But then, something caught his eye. A tall, dark figure was positioned smartly behind a tree. It wasn't just tall, it was massive. He estimated it stood 8 to 9 feet high, judging by a nearby tree where bark had been scratched off up to that same level. The creature's head lined up perfectly with that mark. When they went to investigate after it fled, the smell was overwhelming, like rotting flesh. So strong, his wife threw up. He's not claiming it was Bigfoot, but after researching the area, he discovered that sightings there are quite common. The place is Muir Woods. Earlier in this documentary, we revealed a particularly strange piece of footage from the San Gabriel Mountains of Southern California. Captured on a clear afternoon, the camera zooms into a tree about 15 feet above the forest floor. Wedged between the branches is a dark humanoid figure, motionless, shadowy, and unsettlingly still. This strange figure, perfectly blending into its surroundings, raised questions we couldn't ignore. Is it possible that Bigfoot, or some unknown creature, uses elevated positions to hide from human eyes? Is this intentional camouflage, not just ground-level blending, but vertical concealment in the canopy itself? To investigate further, we reached out to experts who have spent decades in the field, people who've studied cryptid sightings, primate behavior, and wilderness camouflage techniques. What do they see when they watch this clip? Is it simply pareidolia, our brains forcing familiar shapes into randomness, or something more deliberate? As we dive into their analysis, this sighting becomes more than just a blurry shape in a tree. It becomes a case study, a possible glimpse into how something intelligent, elusive, and potentially real may be outsmarting us in plain sight. Let's hear what the experts think. Our final case takes us back to 1972, deep within the Wind River Mountains of Wyoming. It's a wilderness untouched, unforgiving, and far from civilization. The perfect place to hide, or to encounter something never meant to be seen. John Mionczynski, a naturalist working with the U.S. Forest Service and the Wyoming Game and Fish Department, was stationed in the forest for an extensive field study. He lived alone in the wild. No phones, no neighbors, just the sound of nature echoing through the trees.
I was employed by the U.S. Forest Service in the Wyoming Game and Fish Department on a cooperative study. The project was set up so that I would live in the wild.
But one night, that silence was shattered. As the moon rose over the treetops, Mionczynski felt pressure on the side of his tent. Initially thinking it was a bear, he prepared to defend himself. Until he saw it. Pressed against the thin fabric was a large hand, unmistakably primate in structure, with 4 long fingers and an opposable thumb. But this wasn't human. The hand was twice the size of his own.
Approached by something that cast a shadow. The moon was just coming up, was almost a full moon. I clearly saw a hand with 4 fingers and an opposed thumb, like a human hand, and it was large. It was twice the size of my hand.
He struck the shape, and whatever it was bolted into the shadows. But the moment would haunt him. When he reported the incident, his superiors didn't laugh. Instead, they revealed something chilling. Similar reports had been coming in from the area. John's mission quickly shifted from naturalist to investigator. Over time, he interviewed over 25 witnesses. One account, however, stood out. A man claimed to have shot a Bigfoot near his cabin. The creature fell, then got up, and ran.
Interviewed about 25 people. The most interesting one was a young man in a little cabin up against the mountain. He had reported seeing one of these behaving aggressively in front of his cabin, and he shot it. And he thought he'd kill it, but it got up immediately and ran off.
At the scene, Mionczynski recovered hair samples, which were sent to Dr. Walter Birkby, one of the nation's leading forensic anthropologists. The results? Primate hair, unclassified, and absolutely not from any known local species. Birkby himself admitted, "This is my first stumper. This should have been a breakthrough, physical evidence of an unknown primate in North America."
The analysis came back a few days later, and Walter Birkby said, and this is a quote, "This is my first stumper. These hairs are primate," and he was certain about that. The result was controversial because the hairy primate is not of an animal native to Wyoming.
The head of the Forest Service's research division issued a warning. If anyone was caught linking their name to Bigfoot, they'd be fired.
Pointing his finger at us and saying, "If your names are ever associated with this word Bigfoot again, I will personally see to it that you're fired."
The scientific community didn't question the evidence. They rejected it outright. Why? Perhaps the idea of Bigfoot is too disruptive. It challenges established paradigms in anthropology, biology, and our understanding of the natural world. But John never wavered. To this day, he maintains the credibility of the evidence, the witnesses, and the encounter. His story and the others we've explored are part of a growing archive of undeniable anomalies. Bigfoot may not want to be found, but piece by piece, its presence is becoming harder to deny. Whether the world is ready to accept it or not, something is out there. Have you ever filmed something so ordinary, only to find hidden in a single frame, something extraordinary. That's exactly what happened when two creators filmed a backyard survival challenge. On playback, viewers noticed something strange. A dark figure standing upright, obscured by trees. It wasn't addressed in the video, but there it was. Tall, broad, rigidly still. Not a crew member, not a prop. Watch yourself.
Oh, no, this can't be, this can't be. No, this guy's gotta be wrong, he's gotta be wrong. That's right where we are.
The freeze frame spread fast. Users started speculating. Was it a person, a suit, or something else entirely? The silhouette didn't match human proportions. Shoulders too wide, head too forward, and the way it blended into the brush, unnatural. The creators took it seriously. What started as a game turned into an investigation. They returned to the spot with cameras, thermal imaging, and casting material. The original tree line wasn't far from the house, but once you stepped past the lawn, the landscape changed quickly. Dense thickets, narrow game trails, quiet, but not empty. Watch yourself.
Logan, if that's not Bigfoot, I don't know what that is, okay? And that was taken literally 50 yards from this house. Now, I triangulated the forest behind us, and if you check it out on the Bigfoot Map forum, there is a lot of sightings here. There's even newspaper articles about Bigfoot being seen in this area.
That's when they found the first track. Pressed deep into the soil, wide, with splayed toes, no shoe pattern. Whatever left it had weight. And it wasn't alone. Another track was found 6 feet ahead. Same shape, same size. The stride was massive. They followed it, slowly, carefully. Branches above shoulder level were broken, not crushed by wind, snapped. Bark scraped off from mid-tree height. A heavy passage, intentional movement. One of the team spotted a hair sample tangled in a split branch, nearly 7 feet up, coarse, gray-brown, root attached. They sealed it in a collection tube. Watch yourself.
It's feeding time. What? Yo, there's like water in there too. Look at that. There's like scratch marks all along this log. What are those? I don't know. Logan is heading across now. Gonna try and find a path over this massive ditch.
No wildlife approached the area. Even when they left fruit as bait, it remained untouched. But something was moving parallel to them. Out of sight, but not out of range. On thermal, there was a flicker. Something warm, crouched low. It moved between 2 trees and disappeared. Not a deer, not a raccoon, and too fast for any known animal that size. Further in, they discovered claw marks on a fallen log. Fresh, 4 deep grooves, too spaced apart for any local carnivore. The bark hadn't aged yet. Whatever made it was here recently. Close. Watch yourself.
Okay, so Jake's taking the long way around. I found a path that connects us to the river. But since I've been here alone, I've been hearing a lot of weird things in the woods. I don't think it's Bigfoot, guys. In my opinion, I think Jake's just done a little bit too much research and, you know, he's acting a little crazy. But that's just between you and me.
As darkness fell, the environment shifted. The insects stopped. A heavy rustle echoed from behind. Then, a rock fell. Not rolled, dropped. A tree cracked somewhere uphill. Nothing vocal, but enough to know something was watching. Not charging, not fleeing, just present. They stopped at the edge of a ravine. Visibility dropped to 0. It wasn't fear that turned them around, it was instinct. Too many unknowns, and something didn't want to be seen. Watch yourself.
Hairy-looking monster roaming at night. The picture that I took from our last video definitely concerned me, but I still wasn't sure for myself, so we had to push forward, putting all that behind us.
The next morning, they returned. The casts had set. What came out of the ground showed clear impressions. 5 toes, mid-tarsal break, no arch. One was 16 inches long. The weight distribution was off-center, like a creature used to walking uneven terrain. The hair was sent for analysis. No confirmed match, but it didn't align with deer, bear, or canine samples from the region. It remains unidentified. No one was attacked. No structures were found. But what they experienced wasn't entertainment. It was something quietly disturbing. Just far enough outside normal to leave doubt. Just close enough to leave no comfort. Watch yourself.
That's a pretty big foot. Yeah, we'll be able to get a better imprint of what it looks like once we pull this out, but we're gonna need to let it harden. Now we just gotta wait 30 minutes for that to set, and then we can pull it out. I'm not feeling this. Okay, freak it.
I keep hearing things.
Yeah. Yo, and I know I saw something on that footage, man.
What do you think they captured? A coincidence shaped by branches and shadow? Or a brief accidental glimpse into something watching from the woods? Drop your thoughts below. Have you ever filmed something and only noticed the strange part later? Have you ever camped somewhere so quiet, so remote, that every sound feels magnified? In this video from the Hoggett Project, the camera takes us deep into the wilderness near Mount Rainier, where a peaceful solo camping trip quickly turns into something strange. It all starts with a view too good to ignore. Perched with a clear view of Mount Rainier's snow-capped peak, the camp is chosen more for its scenery than for its security. It's quiet, still, and seemingly untouched, until something in the woods starts knocking. Not once, not twice, but repeatedly. Not mechanical, not random, just knocking. At first, the only sign of something unusual is in the trees, a strange bundle of what looks like hair tangled in the bark. It's coarse, dark, and oddly placed, the kind of find that makes you pause. Watch yourself.
This is some kind of hair, it looks like, woven in with some tree bark. I don't know what that is.
Nearby, there's a bedded-down patch of forest floor. The shape is circular and wide enough for something large to have rested there. Not deer, not elk, no fur or hoof marks. Just the impression, and the sense that whatever had been there might still be close.
So, didn't even really take a look over here at this side. That's all bedded down, so it looks like some animals took some cover, especially right here. That's a nice little circular spot.
The setup continues. A tent is raised, a fire pit prepared. Light fades fast in the mountains. As night comes on, thermal and infrared gear are brought out. This isn't just camping, it's observation. The tech includes a black hot thermal setting, where anything giving off heat appears dark on screen. Hands glow black, trees stay pale. The forest reveals what the eye misses. Watch yourself.
It's on black hot, which means anything black being recorded is supposedly hot. And you can see there's my hand, so that's what you get.
At the edge of camp, movement, brief, just a flicker across the thermal viewfinder. It's enough to make the investigators stop. "I can see somebody down there," he says softly, uncertain. Not a person, not quite.
Well, I can see somebody down there.
Later, wind sweeps across the site, but not from the usual direction. It comes from behind, which is strange for that slope. Fire starter gel sparks the flames to life. Leftover lasagna gets warmed up. He films casually, but you can sense he's on edge. It's a quiet night inside the tent, but just before dawn, something stirs outside. Footsteps, faint, crunching dry leaves. The camera picks up subtle audio. He says it could be mice, but the weight of the steps suggests something bigger. Still, there's no full confirmation, just tension. Batteries keep dying fast. 4 already drained. One more and he's down to just a phone. Meanwhile, the squirrels are in chaos, chattering wildly in one direction. He tries moving closer, but whatever's in the woods seems to hear him too. Watch yourself.
Wow, freaky.
Breakfast the next morning is quiet. Chicken-flavored rice heats in a camp pot. The sun returns. He sits in it, finally able to relax. But the peace doesn't last long. Off to the side of camp, branches snap again. Not once. Several in succession. Then, 2 slow, deliberate footsteps. And just like the night before, the squirrels react. All eyes on the trees. Something is moving again. And it isn't just the wind. Watch yourself.
Yeah, I think what I'm going to do is come over here. I'm just sit in the sun. Man, that feels nice.
As he breaks camp, you get the sense this trip was not what he expected. The inflatable tent deflates. The mountain looms in the background. But the real story happened in the woods. Out of sight, half heard, maybe unseen, but definitely there. So what was making the knocking sounds? What stirred the squirrels? Was it just wind and wildlife, or something more? Let us know what you think. Have you ever heard knocking in the woods?
I don't seen it. Bro.
What the is that?
Oh!
What is that?
Have you ever stepped into a place where the silence feels watched? That's the feeling the team couldn't shake as they approached the entrance to the abandoned mine. It was remote, half collapsed in places, with rusted rails still leading into the dark. They'd visited this site before, recorded strange EMF readings and caught unusual sounds. But this night felt heavier, charged. Still. The first investigator entered with a flashlight in hand, confident but cautious. The beam cut a narrow path through the dust. About 20 feet in, without warning, the flashlight went dark. No flicker, no dimming, just sudden, complete failure. Watch yourself.
All right, Jen, whatever you are, I'm leaving your cave. Don't attack me on the way out, please. Oh my God. My flashlight just died. It won't turn on. It won't turn on. Guys! Ah! What the is that? Something just growled off. Oh, what the hell's in here? There's something actually in here. Oh my God. Oh my God, oh my God, oh my God. Oh. Ah! What the is that?
He paused, thinking it was a loose connection. Pulled out his phone to use the LED. It lit. But only seconds later, a low growl echoed through the tunnel. Not an animal sound. Something deeper, more deliberate. It was enough to freeze him in place. He whispered toward the entrance, but when he looked back, no one was there. A moment later, bats stirred overhead. One swooped toward his face, and he turned and bolted. As soon as he stepped out into open air, the flashlight blinked back on, bright and steady. No issues. He hadn't touched it. Back at the entrance, he told the others what happened. One of them, a skeptic, volunteered to go in himself. The others joked about locking the gate behind him. He laughed it off and stepped inside. Just minutes later, he came sprinting out of the shaft at full speed. So disoriented, he slammed into a nearby tree. See it for yourself.
Grab me the padlock. I don't think he'll last a whole 15 minutes.
I don't know. Oh, here he comes.
Whoa! Are you okay?
Whoa.
Did you not see the tree? Did you hit the tree face first? What happened? Are you okay? Holy sh**.
He just got,
Oh, he's cut up.
I think that was a sack.
Oh. What the happened? You didn't see the tree?
When they got to him, he was trembling. He didn't speak right away, just pointed back into the mine. He said he'd heard something brushing against the tunnel wall. Then he felt it. Something moved past him. Not wind, not an animal, a presence. Only later did one team member share what the landowner had told him earlier. Years ago, a man had gone missing in that mine, never recovered. The records were sparse, just one old article mentioning a disappearance. The mine had been shut down soon after. Back at their temporary base, an RV parked near the property line, one of the investigators stayed behind to check gear. He said he'd go live from the site later, made a joke about doing a solo broadcast in the mine. But as he leaned over his gear, a sudden, deafening bang struck the side of the RV. The whole vehicle rocked.
Did you guys hear that?
What the was that?
Something just banged something like really loud.
Yeah, I felt that on the side of the RV, but I don't think it was the RV that got hit.
I don't know. It sounded like it hit metal. Like
God damn it, I was just falling asleep too.
He jumped up and looked outside. Nothing. No footsteps. No movement. He assumed it was a prank, radioed the rest of the team, but they were still at the house, reviewing footage. No one had been near the RV. Earlier in the evening, one member had described something strange when walking deep into the shaft. He said the ground felt soft, almost sponge-like. He stepped carefully, but something about the soil gave him a sinking sensation. Then he heard it, faint, almost out of range. A man's voice, not words, just a tone. Low, echoing. Another member said he felt drained after leaving the tunnel, like something had latched on. He couldn't explain it. It wasn't fear, it was exhaustion. Like his energy had been siphoned the moment he crossed the threshold. Listen closely.
Devour me at some point.
Yeah, because it did sound like an animal, like totally growling, right?
Not to mention the frickin' bats.
And I don't know about you guys. Did you hear any clicking sounds?
I heard a clicking.
I didn't. No.
I heard a clicking.
I heard a clicking.
You did?
Yeah, I heard a clicking.
What the?
Okay, we all just heard that.
As they left the site, all of them reported hearing the same thing. Gravel crunching near the gate, soft clicks echoing off rock. Rhythmic, repetitive. Something pacing near the mouth of the shaft. Long after they'd closed the entrance and packed up their gear. The next morning, the drone operator noticed something strange on the property. Just beyond the mine, tucked into a small ravine, was a pool of water they hadn't seen before. Rust red, still, but the surface had a faint swirling motion, even without wind. They marked the location for a return visit.
All right, we just made it to the Orange Lake. This is pretty surreal. I've never seen anything like this before. The reason why we're even making an effort to explore things like this for this Bigfoot video is because places like this could potentially have prints. It is completely orange.
Whatever had been in that mine hadn't just stayed inside. It followed, it interacted, and it left a trail the team wasn't finished following. What do you think they encountered beneath that mountain? Was it something left behind or something still waiting? Let us know in the comments. Have you ever felt like the forest was listening? Not just quiet, but aware, as if the stillness around you was holding its breath. That's exactly how Richard described the moment before it happened. In January 2021, somewhere along a quiet pine trail in New Zealand's North Island, he stepped into something he couldn't explain. It wasn't just a feeling, something was there. Richard wasn't a cryptid hunter or thrill seeker. He was filming a personal message, a tribute to love and the unseen patterns that shape our world. The forest around him was calm, windless, but as his words touched on connection, consciousness, and ancient memory, something changed. Then came the sounds. First, a deep thump, far off but unmistakable. Then another. Richard paused, camera still rolling. A third hit, closer this time. The ground seemed to shudder with each impact, like something impossibly heavy was moving nearby, on 2 feet. He turned the camera toward the tree line. Nothing but stillness, no birds, no movement. Just that low, humming tension that creeps in when the forest holds its secrets tight. And then, just for a second, a face, half-hidden, gray-toned and watching him from the brush. Its features weren't human, but they weren't fully beast either. The eyes were set wide, the brow heavy. It didn't blink, it didn't move, but it was there. Watch the moment Richard didn't scream or run. He simply stepped back and kept the camera steady. When he returned to the same spot hours later, what he found shook him even more. A circle of pine branches carefully snapped and arranged in a spiral. Not natural fall, not random. Each branch placed deliberately, forming what looked like a symbol or sign. This wasn't there before, and no one else had passed through that stretch of forest. In Maori folklore, there's a figure called the Moehau Man, a large, silent being said to dwell in remote mountain forests. Most dismiss it as legend, but Richard's footage sparked renewed curiosity. The symmetry of the stick formation, the impact sounds, and that face. Skeptics pointed to pareidolia, seeing faces in patterns of leaves and shadow. Others argued it was staged, but the video remained raw and unedited. No cuts, no digital effects, just a man, a camera, and something watching him from the trees. And then there's the moment itself, the strange timing. The knocks only began once Richard's words shifted toward themes of love, memory, and unseen energy, as if whatever was out there responded to emotion, not noise. Since posting the video, Richard hasn't gone looking again, but he hasn't stopped thinking about that day either. Not just what he saw, but how it made him feel. A presence that wasn't threatening, but aware, intelligent, listening. Could it be that the Moehau Man isn't just a relic of old stories, but part of a larger truth hiding in plain sight? And if so, why does it only appear to those who feel, not just those who seek? What do you think Richard encountered that day? Was it legend coming to life, or something we still don't have the language to explain? Have you ever wondered what's hiding in the forests of Western Virginia, just beyond the ridgeline? Not far from the border of West Virginia, a hunter named Roger Williams was preparing for deer season. Like many hunters, he used trail cameras, motion-triggered devices strapped to trees to monitor wildlife. In these quiet Appalachian woods, he didn't expect anything out of the ordinary, but what one of his cameras captured made him stop cold. Watch yourself.
On our way to meet the guy named Roger Williams, his hunting club got a very interesting photo of something which could be a Sasquatch.
It's opening day of deer season, a time when wildlife scatters, sensing the change. And while hunters ready themselves for whitetail, another kind of mystery begins to unfold in the shadows. A photograph, taken quietly in these ridges thick with bear, deer, and old mountain silence, has stirred debate. Is this a young Sasquatch, or simply a bear caught in a strange posture? The image is raw, unclear, yet strangely suggestive. Broad shoulders, long arms, defined glutes, traits not typical of a bear. Locals speak of strange growls echoing across Kaywood Reservoir at 2 a.m., movements in the dark, a sense of something else watching from deeper in the timber. Roger stared at it for hours. It's not a deer, not a hog. It's not what I usually get on camera, he said. When the Finding Bigfoot team arrived, they looked at the area firsthand. What they saw was typical Bigfoot country: remote hollows, deer trails, clean spring water, and dense cover. All the ingredients for a reclusive, intelligent creature to live undetected. Opening day of deer season had just started, so wildlife in the area was already behaving differently. As Roger explained, deer tend to move toward no hunting zones when pressure increases. The team speculated, if Bigfoot exists and preys on deer, it would likely follow the herds into those safe zones. That strategy, they believed, could explain why sightings increase around hunting season. Reactions to the image varied. Some said it was a juvenile bear, others weren't so sure. The limb proportions looked off, the arm long, the heel visible. What made Roger pause most wasn't just the shape, it was the glute muscles. "Bears don't have butts like that," he joked, but there was a serious anatomical point there. Many Bigfoot witnesses report a stocky, muscular build with a noticeably broad posterior, something missing from any known North American mammal. Watch yourself.
I've seen bears in all different situations. Looking at this photograph, I see nothing but a black bear. That's exactly what the fur looks like.
To test the figure's scale and form, Bobo recreated the shot. He crouched in the same location, trying to match the posture exactly. They compared both images. Bobo's shoulder width, leg bend, and limb thickness were different. Despite being a grown man, his proportions didn't quite match what was captured. The trail cam figure remained an outlier. Too small for a man, too human-like for a bear. Adding to the mystery, Roger recalled a separate incident from just over the ridge at Kaywood Reservoir. A solo camper heard something vocalizing deep in the woods around 2 a.m. Not a coyote, not an owl. A chesty, resonant growl that rose and fell like speech. It happened 3 times. Then silence. The sound echoed across the water. No one else was around. Could it be connected? It's easy to dismiss blurry images or strange sounds, but sometimes it's the subtle patterns that raise the most compelling questions. Deer move, bears forage, but something else may be watching, shifting with the seasons, staying just far enough away. So look again. What did Roger capture that day? A curious bear? A trick of light? Or a young Sasquatch caught mid-movement, unaware that it had just been seen? Have you ever seen something as a child that stayed with you, not like a memory, but like a mission? For Scott Violette, it happened when he was just 7 years old. Sitting in a movie theater, waiting for the feature to start, the lights dimmed and a short newsreel began to roll. What he saw wasn't fiction. It was the Patterson-Gimlin film, a short silent reel showing a tall, upright creature striding through the woods of Northern California. Watch for yourself.
And I went from being the teenager who was looking for Bigfoot to somebody who's actually doing research. This is our Squatch Pod. It's our mobile research lab. Patterson got 13 seconds before his film ran out, and now we can do hours and hours and hours.
That glimpse changed everything. Scott recalls seeing the figure move across the screen and thinking, "Wow, they are real." From that moment forward, his childhood shifted. Instead of just exploring the forest, he was searching, looking for signs, for prints, for some trace of the creature he saw in that flickering film. As the years passed, that childhood curiosity didn't fade. It matured. Scott began to learn the scientific method, how to test ideas, rule out false leads, and gather evidence with care. He went from a teenager looking for something magical to an adult doing methodical field research. Today, Scott runs investigations from a custom-built mobile lab he calls the Squatch Pod, a place to collect and review audio, video, and environmental data right there in the field. Watch for yourself.
It was filmed by Paul Freeman. He was actually a Forest Service worker.
Yeah, it looked like they'd been here.
We found some footprints and he was following those.
Oh, there he goes.
That went into the annals of Bigfoot history, that video there, and that's one of the reasons I enjoy searching.
He contrasts it with the limitations of the past. Patterson had just 13 seconds of film before it ran out. Now, Scott can record for hours, capturing everything from thermal scans to environmental audio. He also uses aerial photography, allowing him to, but for all the gear, all the tools, his philosophy remains rooted in patience. He doesn't chase Bigfoot, he waits. You don't find Bigfoot, he finds you. He'll send people out, spread them across remote areas, and simply sit. No lights, no speaking, just listen. Because, as he says, the woods will come alive for you. In 2 decades of this work, he's had 5 personal interactions, 5 moments where something moved in a way that defied normal explanation. But Scott doesn't speak about them with drama. He speaks with quiet certainty. He often reminds people he doesn't believe in Bigfoot. Belief, he says, is for religion. What he does is study, examine evidence, follow patterns. Watch for yourself.
Because there is proof and evidence in history here. I've been doing this for 20 years, and I've spent a lot of time in the woods. In that 20 years, I've had 5 interactions with Bigfoot.
One of the reasons he focuses his efforts in the Blue Mountains is because of a legendary piece of footage, the Freeman film, shot by Paul Freeman, a forestry worker. In that video, Freeman follows a trail of large footprints in the forest before filming a figure ahead of him. That footage, Scott says, went into the annals of Bigfoot history, and it's part of why he returns to these woods, because history has already left its marks here. As for what Bigfoot might be, Scott keeps his mind open. He doesn't claim to know. Could it be a species of gorilla? A relic hominid? Something ancient that never died out? Maybe even something closer to human than we're ready to admit. Watch for yourself.
I don't really believe in Bigfoot. I leave belief up to religion. I've studied the evidence and found it credible. I think they have a very small population. They're very discreet about being seen by humans. Well, I'm not sure if it's a gorilla or a hominid. It could be a relic hominid. So it could be just like us.
He suspects they live in small, scattered populations and avoid humans by choice, not chance. Their ability to remain undetected may not be luck. It may be intelligence. And so, Scott keeps searching, not with certainty, but with conviction. Because for him, it's no longer a question of belief. It's a question of evidence, and the only way to find it is time in the woods. In the end, maybe the greatest evidence of Bigfoot is its absence. The broken branches, the fading footprints, the footage that almost shows something. But piece by piece, the story is coming together. And if even a fraction of these encounters are true, then the creature we're chasing isn't just real. It's watching, listening, and staying hidden by design. This isn't just folklore anymore. This is strategy, and camouflage might be Bigfoot's most brilliant move yet.